Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Uh, in case you're new, my name is Lucy. In case you are joining us for the next and another amazing time, please feel welcome. And this channel, we learn more about sign language, and we also learn how to interact with the persons with disability. Guys, in today's lesson, I am going to let you know the origin of sign language in the world. And actually, the first book with the sign language, um, the one with the manual alphabet, was published by Juan Pablo de Bonnet in 1620 in France. Some years later, that is around 1755, the public education for the deaf started in France, and it was founded by somebody called Abbe Charles de Lupi. He's the one who started the first public school in deaf, not only in France but worldwide. It was actually the first school for the deaf, and for that reason, Abbe Charles de Lupi is regarded as the father of public education for the deaf worldwide. He is also regarded as the father of sign because he's actually the first person who initiated a school where people would use sign language to communicate. He is also said to have refined and developed sign language, and he came up with very many signs that different countries that use sign language currently borrowed from him. So the next thing that we are going to look at is the origin of sign language in United States, or rather America, and it was introduced by someone called Thomas Hopkins at around 1817. He's the one who initiated the first school for the deaf at a place called Hartford, Connecticut. He was actually a minister and a young student for Charles de Lupi from France. Later, at around 1880, there was a Milan conference where someone guided by, he was called actually Henix. He's the one who advocated for the use of oralism, where he thought that deaf people shouldn't be taught using speech. And it was during that Milan conference that many people advocated for the use of oralism instead of sign language. And for that reason, it is at this period that the development of sign language retarded across the world, because according to Henix, he believed that all the deaf people across the world should be taught using oralism, that is the use of speech rather than sign language. So the next thing, guys, that we are going to look at is what is the origin of Kenyan sign language. And I will tell you that sign language started to be used in Kenya at around 1958 and 1960s, when there was establishment of special units where deaf people would still communicate using their manual signs. They would also learn using the manual signs, despite the fact that it was advocating that all the schools across the world to use oralism for communication. However, deaf people and their own developed signs which were not refined, and they would use it to communicate amongst themselves, and also to communicate in the special units. Guys, at around 1985, we have the father of Kenya Sign Language called Dr. Michael Rumo, a graduate of Gallaudet University, came to Kenya, and is strongly advocating for the use of Kenyan Sign Language. And he said there's the need for people to use sign language, sign exact English, signed English in the education for the deaf. As a well experienced doctor with the sign language, he led a research that was conducted at around 1986 that stated that the use of sign language was much better when compared to oralism, and the fact that many deaf students understood when there is the use of a sign language rather than speech. These findings led to the development of the first draft for the Kenya Sign Language for the schools by the Kenya Institute of Education. At around 1986, again, the first school for the deaf, Machakos School for the Deaf, was funded, and it was actually started as a pilot for total communication and a method that incorporated sign language, finger sparing, and speech, among others. And at around 1988, the government introduced the use of Kenya Sign Language and sign system in all schools and special unit for the deaf in Kenya under the philosophy of total communication. And finally, through Kenya Institute of Special Education, through Kenya National Association for the Deaf, through Kenya Society for the Deaf Children, and Kenya Institute for Education, a sign language was started, and boom, sign language took its ground in Kenya. So basically, my dear listeners, that is the origin of sign language in the world and the origin of Kenya Sign Language. So guys, in case you love my content, please remember to give it a thumbs up. Also subscribe and make sure that you follow each and every video that I'm going to post, because I'm pretty sure by the end of this, guys, you are going to enjoy sign language. That was my third lesson, and we shall move on to the fourth lesson. Thank you so much, my dear people, and let's meet in the next video. Bye.